I'm going to make a short video for beginners, people looking to buy their first motorcycle, and they're going out and they're going to shop for a used motorcycle. Anyone that is experienced, they've been through this, they already know everything. Please don't watch this video. You'll find it repetitive, boring, even condescending. So if you're an experienced rider, seasoned rider, do not watch this. For everyone else that's out there looking to buy their first motorcycle, here's what I would suggest. First thing you should do is call your insurance man and find out what it's going to cost to insure the motorcycle you are considering. Sport bikes cost more to insure. Call and see what it's going to cost, and I suggest that you get increased liability coverage. For $20 or $40 more, you can increase your liability coverage from $10,000 liability to $300,000 liability. I've been doing that for decades. That's my minimum, and I have it stacked in case one $300,000 policy, I think, gets exhausted. I can tap into the other one. I'm not sure about that, but anyway, I'll give you an example of why. Let's say the worst happens and you cause an accident and you kill the mother of small children. You are liable and responsible for those kids until they're 18 years old for their expenses. Something to consider. All right, so now that I've scared you, the next thing you want to do after you find out if you can afford the insurance, you want to get the title in your hand, the guy has, and you want to compare the numbers on the title to the numbers on the frame. They're on the left side of the frame. You can see part of my serial number there. I'm not sure, but I think the numbers on the engine are going to match. So you want to make sure that you have the title for that bike. And you know, it's a legit bike. All right. And then you want to make sure that the bike fits you. Sit on the bike, see if it fits. See if that's the position you want to sit in for hours. You know, personally, I can't ride on a cruiser bike with my feet way out in front of me. I like my feet right under my butt, so when I see that big bump coming, I can unload the seat and let the bike absorb the impact instead of sending it up through my spine. So you can't do that on a cruiser with the bike, the bars way out, or the foot pegs way out in front. So if you fit the bike, okay, fine. Then you start looking the bike over. Just check it out. See if you see any mismatched parts. See if you have any. Look at the engine. Look at the hardware on the engine, like these screws on the clutch cover. Look at the base gasket where it meets the head gasket. The cylinders where they meet where the engine bolts together. Look to see if there's any sealant oozing out at the seam there. You never want to buy a bike that they claim has a rebuilt engine like that's something fantastic. I would never buy a motorcycle with a rebuilt engine. Never. I won't touch them. All right. You want to make sure when you check with your notary, you want to call whatever state you're in, and you want to see how they indicate on the titles for that state if the motorcycle has a reconstructed title or a salvaged title. That means that bike was totaled by the insurance company. The insurance company sold it, or it went to an auction and somebody bought it and put it back on the road. And the problem with that is when you go and make a claim, if your bike is stolen or if you crash the bike on, you know, and ends up under a guardrail or under a car and it's totaled, you have to submit the title to the insurance company. They're going to look at that title and say, whoa, whoa, whoa. This bike has been reconstructed. It was salvaged. We're not paying you 100 cents on the dollar. That I know a guy that happened to. So you don't want to buy a salvaged title bike, because your insurance company is going to charge you the full price for the insurance, but when it comes time to paying it off, things don't go that way. So you don't want to buy reconstructed title. Okay, I prefer that you stick with a stock bike. You don't want a bike that's been painted. That means it's been crashed. 99% of the time that bike's been crashed. All right, so you're examining everything. You're looking to see that it doesn't have bent wheels. You're looking to see if the the tires are good, which is really not a big deal if the tires aren't any good. And I'll show you a quick way to check to see if the chain and sprockets are worn out. This chain has play in it, has the right amount of slack, okay? But I cannot pull that chain off the sprockets. See that? Won't even budge. Okay, a worn out chain, I could pull that chain off maybe 1/4 of an inch or even 1/2 an inch. So it's not really a big deal if you have worn chain and sprockets, but you can't just throw a chain on old sprockets. You have to replace them in pairs. Okay, so just little things like that. Tires, maybe $250 and if you put them on yourself. You check for leaks, like the fork tubes, see if the fork seals are good. You do the same with the rear shock. You check for oil. You look under the engine to see if there's any leaks. Look for coolant checks. If the bike looks good and you want, I suggest going with a bike, especially if you're a beginner. Why would you want a faster bike? Why would you want a bike that's been modified to go faster? And in my experience, you cannot feel these increases in performance people claim they get when they flash the computer and put an aftermarket exhaust on. You can't feel it. And actually, the drivability, when you move the power to, let's say, where the meat of the power band is, say, around 6,000 or 7,000 RPMs. All right, and if you change things, with the ignition advance and the fuel injection, and if it has adjustable cam timing, if you change it and you move it so that it makes 6 more horsepower at 12,500 RPMs, okay, you've actually taken, you robbed Peter to pay Paul. You have moved it from the mid-range where you need it. That's where you always need your power, right at mid-range, and you've transferred it to the higher RPMs. That's not always a fair, trade. I'd rather have the mid-range and the low-end grunt than the high-speed performance. And you know what? If you have problems with your bike, something happens and you have to take it to the dealer, and the technician is going to plug it in to see what's wrong, and it's got a different, the air box is removed and the exhaust pipe's been removed and the computer's been flashed. How is he supposed to know what the standard readings are going to be? Like taking someone's blood pressure, it should be 120/70. Okay, well, I'm getting readings of 150 over 200. The readings don't jive with what things are supposed to be. So you don't want to get a hopped up bike. Believe me, trust me, they're not noticeably faster, and reliability goes down when you start doing things like that. When you have a bike that's a Frankenstein, it's got all these extra parts put on it, or performance mods. I've seen it. I road raced for 8 years. I actually destroyed a bike modifying it, because when I started racing, I blamed the bike for me not winning, when actually it was me that was slow, not the bike. I finally learned that and went with a stock bike, and I did very well after that. All right, so you check the bike out, make sure it's stock, make sure all the paperwork jives. Okay, you don't want to buy an race bike or a track day bike. And one quick way to find out is look over the bike to see if you can find things that have been drilled for safety wire, like the drain plug. They all have to be safety wired. If you see holes drilled in the drain plug for safety wire, I don't know if I would be interested in buying that bike. You can check, just eyeball the frame, get about 20 feet behind the bike, and get down on the ground and eyeball the way the back wheel is lined up with the front wheel to see if it's straight. You can't tell by this, but that's generally how you do it. And you can pretty much tell, you stand way back, if it's not straight, if it's not lined up. I've seen swing arms bent where the top of the wheel is over about 10 degrees, and then you can have them not tracking straight. Some bikes, the wheel doesn't track straight behind the front wheel. That's one of them. But most bikes that come from the factory, the back wheel tracks behind the front one. You can check it with string too. I have a video on YouTube. It's on chain adjustment with this bike, and I show you how to check how straight the frame is with string wrapped around the front wheel and come down both sides of the bike. Okay, what else? Consider how far away the dealer is when you buy a bike. You know, if you have a Kawasaki dealer or a Suzuki dealer just on the street, but you like the Honda and the Honda dealer's 300 miles away, I think I'd go with the Kawasaki or the Suzuki, unless you do your own work. Okay, get a feel for the owner. What's his mindset? Why was he riding this bike? Why is he selling it? You know, if he brags about how he can wheelie this thing down the street forever, or if he can smoke the back tire, do a burnout, I think I would pass on that one, especially if it was painted, it's been crashed. I'd pass on that one. But you want to find something that's pretty stock, pretty unmolested. You want to see if they have the service records. You want to make sure you get the toolkit, all the stock parts that were changed. If he has any leftover brand new oil and filters, and if he has a shop manual, you want to get all those things. I personally never include them. When I sell one of my bikes, I take all that stuff off, because if the Kelly Blue Book tells you the value of the bike, it's tough to get your money back out when you buy extras. If you include them with the bike, you're just giving them away. So I never even show the bike. Like, that has a Corbin seat. Those Corbin seats are $400. I'm not giving that away. Stuff like that trunk, like that rack, I forget the name of the rack, but that's made in Germany. I think that was about $250 or $300. I'm not giving that away. I'll negotiate with you, and if you want to make me include it to buy the bike, I'm going to say, well, you're not buying the bike then. But anyway, get all the extras if you can, because you'll be getting them for free. Now, whenever you check the bike out, you want to turn the key on. Make sure all the lights come on. This bike, the headlights don't come on unless the engine's running. But you want to check the turn signals. You want to check the horn. You want to make sure the high and low beam works. You want to make sure the brake light works. All right, then you want to start the bike. See, now that's indicating I'm not moving. There's the mileage. There's a trip meter. Bike's in neutral. It has ABS. The check engine light is on. That'll go out when I start the bike. All right, so start the bike and watch the exhaust pipe. You want to make sure that no oil, no white smoke, no black smoke comes out. Okay, that's fine. Nice mellow tone with the stock exhaust. I think it looks better with the stock exhaust. When I bought this bike, it had a Yoshimura pipe on it. The guy that I bought it from was 6'7", and he realized after the second day that it was too small for him physically. But he said he bought it and had that pipe on it. And he was a beginner, so I believed him. What I think happened is this bike fell over, and the stock muffler was very expensive, so the dealership just put an aftermarket pipe on it. Because he said it had like 3 miles on it when he bought it. Okay, so it's running. Lights work, check high, low beam. You'd be surprised what a pain in the ass it is sometimes for little things like turn signals that don't work to fix them. Especially if you have a bike that has self-canceling turn signals. This doesn't have four-way flashes. But anyway, you want to check, make sure all the systems work. You want to check for leaks of all fluids. Oil, water, hydraulic fluid. No leaks. See where the guy that is selling the bike kept the bike overnight, and look on the ground, see if you got any leaks. All right, once you have checked out or had somebody that knows motorcycles that checked it out to make sure everything looks pretty good, and you've checked out the title, and you're going to get the extras, and the bike is not an ex-race bike, it's not a reconstructed title, and it's pretty much basically, you know, it's the stock bike. Then you go and you made sure that the dealer is not far away, and you buy the bike. Read the owner's manual many times. Learn about the capacity of the gas tank. Learn about how much oil the transmission takes or the engine takes. Learn how to lubricate all the different pivot points, like kickstand, like clutch and brake levers pivots, like the chain, steering head bearings. They're not going to tell you those things in the manual. Product liability laws today don't want you working on your own bike, and neither do the dealers. But years ago, they used to tell you how to set the points and adjust the valves on your motorcycle. I remember that, the 350 Honda Twins, they told you the wrong way to set the timing on those in the manual. Something got lost in translation there. So when you get the bike home, you want to read the manual. And my final advice to anyone buying a motorcycle: don't let your friends ride it. Not unless they have been riding. I have seen with my own eyes people that just want to try your bike. They go out and they crash it. I saw that with a brand new bike one day. Two buddies bought bikes off of me, and the one that had been riding for a while was at the end of the driveway ready to leave, and the other guy was holding his clutch in, and he kept stalling, and I'm like, what? Do you know how to ride? Yeah. Okay, well, I said, I'll give you a little push. Maybe the clutch plates are just stuck together since this is a brand new bike. I'll get you moving, then click it into gear. He said, okay. So I get behind him and I push him. It's not funny, I shouldn't laugh. But I gave him a push, and I yelled because he had his helmet on. I said, okay, hit it. He took that literally. He nailed the gas and went full speed across the parking lot into the parts man's 1969 Dodge Charger, right into the door. That guy parked it as far away from the door as he could get it every day, and that guy went right for it. And here the guy never knew how to ride. So don't let your friends... Well, I have a rule when it comes to money and motorcycles and guitars. If you want to keep your friend, never borrow, never lend. And that goes for motorcycles, because they could get seriously hurt, and you could get seriously, into conflict with your insurance man. You just don't know what's going to happen. Take a rider learning how to ride safety course, and I'll give you one bit of information. I've never heard any instructor say, nobody teaches this. You have to understand, well, I'm sure they teach this though. Well, you have to understand, when you're riding a motorcycle, when you're going in a straight line, you steer the bike with the palms of your hands. And this is why a lot of people crash their bike the first time they get on it. They think you have to steer to the left to go left, and they end up going straight with fighting the handlebars. You go right into a tree or a car. To go left, you push the handlebars away, and the front wheel steers away from the way you want to go, and the bike will fall that way. That's called counter steer. You have to understand that principle before you start riding a motorcycle. And here's the thing that nobody teaches, except for me. I'm going to teach you that right now. When you're riding a motorcycle, when you're walking, when you're driving, when you're doing anything, your eyes tell your brain, they process information with your eyes parallel to the horizon. Never tilt your head when you're riding a motorcycle in a corner. Keep your eyes level. When you see them guys riding MotoGP and they're leaned 60 degrees, you watch their heads. They are not tilting their heads. They are turning their heads into the corner at the angle they are leaning. And their eyes are parallel to the horizon. Your brain processes all that information while your eyes are parallel to the horizon. Don't tilt your head. Riding a motorcycle, you have to develop a rhythm when you're shifting. If you don't believe me, go to a pair of steps in your house right now and briskly walk down the steps. Start at the top and start walking down the steps, okay? Notice what foot you start out on. Okay, now go to the top of the steps and start over at the same speed coming down, but start off with the other foot. Make sure you're hanging onto the railing because you might fall. It's a rhythm that you have to develop between letting off the throttle, working the clutch, and touching the shifter. It's a rhythm. And it takes place in a split second, the actual shifting motion. Click, 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 click. And it takes time for you to develop that. But you'll get it. Actually, the faster you, not the harder, but the faster you shift, the happier your transmission will be. The faster you pull the clutch in and let go of the shifter. Click, 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 your transmission is happier. These are sequential 6-speed constant mesh transmissions. They are always engaged to the gear in front. The gears change ratios by sliding out of contact with one gear and into another one will go into another one. So when you shift, always remove your foot from the shifter. This is not a foot peg or a kickstarter. Take your foot off. See how it recenters? It can go up and recenter. It can go down and recenter. Oh, now I'm in first gear. Don't shift your transmission unless your bike's running. That's a bad thing. And when you stop, if you're trying to find neutral, rock the bike back and forth to get it to go into neutral, because I don't want to go into it. It's pretty complicated. I can't put it into words. I'd have to show you. But baby your transmission. That is a delicate mechanism in there. And always remove your foot between every shift. I'm going to stop there. But anyway, I hope that I helped somebody that's looking to get into motorcycling to learn about the things to check on the title, the insurance. Get all the stuff. You don't want to buy a Frankenstein bike that's been experimented with. You know, why does the guy want to sell the bike? You know, why is he going up? If he's going up to a bigger bike, it's easier for a good rider, even an average rider, to wring the neck of a smaller bike. I have to admit, when I ride this, I tend to sprain the speed limit a little bit, but it's fun on a smaller bike because you can go through the gears, you know, first, second, third, fourth, you know, and then you're not really speeding until you get into fifth or sixth, you know, whereas on a big bike, there are many bikes out there right now. I still can't get my mind wrapped around this, but there are many motorcycles available right now to somebody that walks into a dealer, 18 years old. They can buy a handful of motorcycles that will do 100 miles an hour in first gear. Don't buy one of them. You couldn't afford the insurance anyway if you're a beginner. So I'm going to stop there. I hope you learned something. Anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I don't know everything. I don't even know a lot. The older I get, the more I realize I really don't know anything. But anyway, good luck on your purchase. Those are just some of the things to consider when you're looking at a new to you used motorcycle. See you there.